Sometimes the person you quietly help ends up teaching you the greatest lesson of life, even after they're gone. If you've ever helped someone without expecting anything in return, this story will touch your heart. So before we begin, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and stay till the end, because this one will remind you that kindness never goes unnoticed, even by fate. It was a chilly autumn morning when Lena, a 26-year-old waitress at the Silver Spoon Diner, noticed the frail old man sitting alone by the window again. Every morning he'd come in around 7:30, wearing the same faded brown coat, the same wool hat pulled low over his ears, and those same tired eyes that seemed to carry decades of stories behind them. He never ordered much, just a cup of coffee and a small bowl of soup. But Lena always noticed how he looked at the menu as if pretending to decide, though his pockets never seemed full enough for more than that. That morning, as she poured him his coffee, she saw his trembling hands. "Careful there, Mr. Harris," she said softly. "It's hot." The old man smiled weakly. "Thank you, dear. You always take care of an old fool like me." Lena smiled back, but deep inside she was fighting her own storm. Her mother was ill, her younger brother was still in school, and she'd been working double shifts just to keep their rent paid. Yet something about the old man's quiet loneliness tugged at her heart. When she brought him his bill that day, she slipped an extra sandwich into a paper bag and whispered, "For later." He looked up, eyes glistening. "You'll make me spoil, girl." Lena laughed lightly. "Well, then spoil a little. You've earned it." And that's how it began. One small act of kindness that turned into something much more. For months, Lena secretly covered part of the old man's meals. Some days, she'd tell the cashier it was a staff mistake. Other times, she'd pretend the soup was part of a customer loyalty deal. When tips were good, she'd buy him an apple pie slice or a piece of toast. The other staff teased her. "You'll go broke feeding everyone, Lena," said Marcy, the head waitress. But Lena just smiled. "He reminds me of my grandfather. Besides, if I don't help, who will?" The old man, whose name she later learned was Arthur Harris, became a quiet constant in her routine. Sometimes they talked about his late wife, Mary, or about the little house he used to live in before he had to sell it. Other times they just sat in silence, letting the world rush by outside while sharing the comfort of warm coffee and gentle smiles. He told her once, "You've got the kind of heart the world's short on these days." She laughed, brushing off the compliment. "I just serve soup and coffee, Mr. Harris." But he shook his head. "No, child, you serve humanity." Then one morning, he didn't come. At first, Lena thought maybe he was running late. She kept glancing toward the window booth, expecting his silhouette, that familiar brown coat. But by 9 a.m., the booth stayed empty. His coffee cup remained clean, untouched. "Maybe he's sick," Marcy said, shrugging. "Old folks catch colds easy this time of year." But Lena's heart felt uneasy. Something in her gut told her this wasn't just a cold. The next day, he still didn't show up, nor the day after. By the end of the week, Lena couldn't take it anymore. She asked around, checked the local shelters, even stopped by the small apartment complex she once overheard him mention. Finally, an old janitor at the building said, "Mr. Harris?" "Yeah, he passed away a few days ago. Found him in his sleep, quietly went like he always lived." Lena froze. The words hit her harder than she expected. She thanked the janitor numbly, then walked back toward the diner with tears blurring her vision. The world suddenly felt quieter, emptier. When she reached the diner, she sat in his usual booth and just stared at the empty seat across from her. The smell of coffee, the chatter of customers. It all faded into the background. Then, as she reached into her apron pocket to grab a napkin, she found a small folded note. Something she hadn't noticed before. It was old and crumpled, as if handled by weak hands many times. She opened it. In shaky handwriting it read, "Dear Lena, if you're reading this, it means I've moved on. I didn't have much in this world, but your kindness made my last days brighter than I ever thought they could be. You reminded me of my daughter. She passed long ago. But your warmth made me feel like I still had family left in this world. I left something for you. Check with the lawyer whose card I once gave you for that pie you insisted I didn't have to pay for. Thank you, my dear. You gave me back hope. Arthur Harris." Lena's hand shook. She remembered that card. He had once scribbled the name Henry Shaw, attorney, on a napkin when they were talking about taxes. She thought it was nothing. Now she ran. At the lawyer's office, Mr. Shaw, a gentle man in his 60s, smiled softly when she introduced herself. "Ah, Miss Lena. Mr. Harris spoke of you often." He handed her a small envelope and a document. Inside the envelope was a letter and a check. Arthur had left her $25,000, his remaining savings from selling his house. The letter said, "I know it's not much, but I want you to use this for your mother's medicine and your brother's schooling. You gave me food when I couldn't afford it. Now let me feed your dreams. Never stop being who you are. The world needs more Lenas." By then, Lena was sobbing, not because of the money, but because of what it meant. She had fed him, yes, but he had given her something far more precious, faith that kindness matters. Months passed. The diner still buzzed every morning, and the world went on. But at the window booth, Lena placed a small framed photo of Arthur smiling, along with a card that read, "Reserved for Mr. Harris, our beloved morning guest." Every Christmas, she'd place a slice of apple pie there. The other customers eventually learned his story, and one by one, they began quietly paying for meals for those in need. It became a tradition, the Harris table, as the locals called it. The manager even set up a donation box labeled "Pay It Forward" in memory of Arthur, and soon that small act of kindness began to ripple through the entire town. Homeless folks found warm meals waiting for them. Struggling families received groceries from strangers. People started greeting each other more warmly, because one waitress cared, because one old man believed in gratitude. So the next time you see someone struggling, remember Lena and Mr. Harris. You don't need to have a lot to change someone's life. Sometimes all it takes is a warm meal, a kind word, or a heart willing to give. And who knows, maybe one day that kindness will find its way back to you, just like it did for Lena. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that remind us all. Kindness never dies. It only multiplies.